Hello and welcome to IAMC Radio and Podcast. Let's explore the top news headlines for today, January 15th. We've got a lot to cover, from financial drama to political upheaval, and even some thought-provoking stories that touch on some deeper societal issues.
Indeed, it's shaping up to be a day of impactful news from around the globe.
Let's start in Nigeria, where a prominent businessman, Nduka Obegbena, who you might know as the chairman of the This Day editorial board, is making headlines. For all the wrong reasons.
According to Sahara reporters, Obegbena's oil company, General Hydrocarbons Limited, is facing some serious legal trouble. They're reportedly in debt to the tune of $225 million to First Bank of Nigeria. That's not a figure you just shrug off.
Definitely not. What's fascinating to me is that it's not just a financial dispute. It's escalated to the point where a federal high court has ordered the Nigerian Navy to seize Obegbena's oil vessel, the FPSO Tamara Tukoni. Sounds like something out of a movie.
It certainly does paint a picture of high stakes and power plays. This situation raises some interesting questions about the financial landscape in Nigeria. Is this level of debt common in the oil industry there? What factors might be contributing to such a situation?
It makes you wonder if this is an isolated incident or a symptom of a larger economic trend.
Exactly. And it also makes you think about the implications for the Nigerian economy as a whole. The oil industry plays a significant role. So any instability there could have ripple effects.
Speaking of ripple effects, our next headline takes us to South Africa, where a tragic incident at an illegal gold mine has claimed the lives of at least 60 people.
This happened in Stilfontein. At a mine that had been closed by the government, authorities had cut off food and water supplies in an attempt to force illegal miners to surface.
It's a heartbreaking situation.
It
really highlights the desperate measures people are willing to take in search of economic opportunity.
It does, and it raises some tough questions about the government's approach. While the intention may have been to stop illegal mining, did those tactics inadvertently contribute to this tragedy?
It's a difficult question to answer. This story really underscores the complexity of trying to balance economic regulation with human safety and well-being. And speaking of complex situations, our next headline takes us to Libya, where the ongoing migration crisis continues to unfold.
According to Sahara reporters, the Libyan Department for Combating Illegal Migration has detained 54 individuals attempting to cross the Mediterranean Sea into Europe. The group included women from Nigeria.
It's a stark reminder of the risks people willing to take for a chance at a better life. These journeys are incredibly dangerous, and yet people still feel compelled to embark on them.
It speaks to the desperation that many people face in their home countries, pushing them to seek refuge or opportunity elsewhere, even at great personal risk. It also puts a spotlight on Libya's role in managing migration flows and the humanitarian challenges involved.
From perilous journeys to the complexities of public memory. Our next story takes us to Ghana, where a statue of former President Nana Akufo-Addo has been destroyed just days after he left office.
Yes, the statue was erected during Akufo-Addo's presidency, but it seems it wasn't universally appreciated. It drew criticism for being built during a time of economic hardship in the country.
So some people saw it as a symbol of misplaced priorities, especially during tough economic times.
Precisely. And this act of destruction has predictably ignited a debate. Some see it as a justified expression of frustration, while others condemn it as vandalism and disrespect for a former leader. It's a fascinating glimpse into how societies grapple with their past and how they choose to represent their leaders.
It's interesting how a single statue can become a lightning rod for such complex emotions and perspectives.
It's a powerful reminder that history is rarely viewed through a single lens. There are always multiple interpretations and narratives at play.
And speaking of navigating the past, our next headline takes us back to Nigeria, where there's a call to remember the legacy of a former leader.
Yes, this headline marks the anniversary of the assassination of Sir Ahmadu Bello, the premier of northern Nigeria who was tragically killed in 1966. Former lawmaker Senator Shehu Sani is urging the country to remember Bello's commitment to public service and his notable lack of personal wealth.
It's a poignant reminder of Nigeria's turbulent political history and the enduring impact of the 1966 coup, which had such profound and lasting consequences for the nation. It's also a call to reflect on the qualities of leadership and what it truly means to serve the public good.
Indeed, it invites us to consider what kind of legacy we want our leaders to leave behind and what values we should prioritize in those who hold positions of power.
And from reflecting on legacies to potential disruptions in daily life. Our next story takes us back to the world of finance with some concerning news for millions of Nigerians.
This headline focuses on 9 Nigerian banks, that are at risk of having their USSD codes disconnected due to unpaid debts to telecom operators.
For those who may not be familiar, can you explain what USSD codes are and why they are so vital in the Nigerian context?
Absolutely. USSD codes are those short numeric codes you dial on your phone to access various services. In Nigeria, they're essential for mobile banking. Many people rely on them to transfer money, pay bills, and check their account balances, especially those who don't have regular access to internet banking.
So if these codes are disconnected, it could have a significant impact on the ability of millions of Nigerians to access their finances.
Exactly. It's a situation where a financial dispute could have far-reaching consequences, disrupting the lives of everyday people who rely on these services.
It highlights the crucial role technology plays in our lives, especially when it comes to something as fundamental as banking.
It does. And it also underscores the interconnectedness of various systems. In this case, a dispute between banks and telecom operators could end up impacting millions of individuals who rely on both sectors for essential services.
It's a reminder that even seemingly technical issues can have very real and human consequences.
Absolutely. And on that note of interconnectedness and potentially far-reaching consequences, our next headline takes us to South Korea, where a political drama is unfolding.
This is the story about President Yoon Suk-yeol and the attempt to impose martial law, right? Sounds incredibly serious.
It is. President Yoon declared martial law last month, citing threats from what he termed anti-state forces. However, the move was swiftly overturned, and he's now facing charges of leading an insurrection. He's actually been detained as a result.
Wow, that escalated quickly.
Yeah.
So what does this mean for South Korea? Is there a sense of instability or concern about the future of the country's democracy?
Those concerns are definitely present. This situation raises questions about the rule of law, the stability of South Korea's democratic institutions, and the potential for further political turmoil. It's a developing story with potential implications for the entire region.
It'll be interesting to see how this situation unfolds and what it reveals about the state of South Korean politics. And finally, we shift our focus to the United States, where a controversial bill has just been passed by the House of Representatives.
This bill, which bans transgender women from competing in women's sports, is a victory for conservatives, but has reignited the debate on transgender rights and inclusion in sports. It's a topic that evokes strong emotions and diverse perspectives.
It's definitely a decision that will have significant consequences for transgender athletes and raises complex ethical and societal questions about fairness, inclusion, and identity.
It raises questions about how we define gender, how we ensure fairness in competition, and how we balance individual rights with broader societal values. It's a topic that's likely to continue generating discussion and debate as its implications are fully realized.
It seems like every headline today touches on complex and multifaceted issues. As we wrap up this first segment, is there anything that stands out to you? Any overarching themes or connections that you see emerging from these diverse stories?
What's striking to me is how many of these headlines highlight the tension between individual actions and their broader consequences. Whether it's a businessman's financial dealings impacting an entire industry, a government crackdown with unintended consequences, or a political decision with far-reaching social impact, it seems we're constantly navigating a web of interconnected challenges.
Yeah, it's a really insightful observation.
Yeah.
It makes you think about the ripple effects of our choices and how they can reverberate across borders and impact the lives of people we may never even meet. It's a sobering thought, but also perhaps a call to greater awareness and responsibility.
It is a call to awareness, and perhaps also a reminder that even seemingly small decisions can have a ripple effect, influencing the world around us in ways we might not always anticipate.
It's fascinating to consider that idea of interconnectedness and the web of consequences, both intended and unintended, that we weave through our actions. Yeah. It makes you wonder about the systems and structures that shape those realities.
Exactly. What role do governments play in regulating industries, managing migration, and ensuring the protection of human rights? What responsibilities do individuals bear when it comes to the ethical implications of their choices? These are questions that resonate throughout the headlines we've explored today.
It feels like we're constantly navigating a landscape of complex challenges with no easy answers in sight.
That's true. But it's often within those challenging spaces that we find the most opportunities for growth, innovation, and positive change. By engaging with these difficult questions, by seeking to understand diverse perspectives, and the nuances of these global issues, we can start to forge a path toward a more just and equitable world.
I love that idea. Leaning into complexity rather than shying away from it. It's about approaching these issues with curiosity and a willingness to learn from one another, even when we disagree.
Precisely. And on that note, we'd love to shift the focus to you, our listener. What has resonated with you the most from today's headlines? What thoughts or questions have been sparked for you? Your insights are incredibly valuable to us, and we'd love to continue this conversation together.
We're all learning and exploring these issues together, and your voice is a crucial part of that journey.
Speaking of journeys, it seems like our news journey for today is coming to a close. But before we wrap up, we wanted to leave you with a final thought to ponder.
I always appreciate a thought-provoking question to take away from our exploration of the news. What do you have for us today?
Well, we've been discussing interconnectedness and the ripple effects of our actions. So my question to you is this. If you could make one small change in your life, a change that aligns with the values you hold dear, what impact do you think that change could have on the world around you?
That's such a powerful question. It encourages us to think about our own agency and the potential we each possess to make a difference, no matter how small it may seem.
Exactly. Even seemingly insignificant actions can create a ripple effect, contributing to positive change in ways we may never fully grasp. We encourage you to reflect on that question, to explore the possibilities, and to embrace the power you have to contribute to a better world.
It's been such an engaging exploration of today's news, filled with insightful discussions and thought-provoking questions.
It certainly has. We've truly enjoyed having you along for the ride. And remember, even as we navigate the complexities of this interconnected world, there's always room for hope for positive change and for those ripples of individual action to create waves of transformation.
That's a great note to end on. It's been a fascinating journey through today's news, filled with thought-provoking stories and insightful analysis.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration.
And thank you for listening to today's top news headlines on IAMC Radio and Podcast.